All right, Larry Kruger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we talk a little Niners and do a deep dive on Niner third-round pick, running back Kalon Black. And, of course, the Krug Show is brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. The Krug Show also brought to you by Habbas Law. When everything's on the line, choose the team that understands that. Habbas Law, they fight to make it right. Visit them online at habbaslaw.com. And also, the Krug Show is brought to you by Prize Picks, America's #1 sports picks app. That's right, Prize Picks is super simple. You just pick more or less on player stats or game outcomes and build your lineup. It's available in most states, including California, so if you haven't checked it out yet, use code HMA, and when you play $5, you'll get $50 in lineups instantly. All right, the Niners took a very controversial pick when they took Kalon Black, the running back out of Indiana, in the third round with pick number 90. I love this player. Man, I love this player. This is one of my favorite players in the whole draft. And the Niners, you could argue, reached for him because some people had him going in the 5th or 6th round. I don't really care that much about that because this kid has greatness. There's heart. He's got the heart of a champion. Heart of a champion, incredibly strong, had a 4-year career at JMU, followed Cignetti to Indiana, and then played 2 years at Indiana, six-year player. North-south runner, very scheme versatile, can run gap scheme, can run zone, runs with power. What is the defining characteristic of Kalon Black? It's yards after contact. He runs with power. He's a north-south runner who will run you over. Period. And he's got receiving ability, but he wasn't used as a receiver at Indiana, but he did show that receiving ability in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. How about this? Kalon Black was not invited to the combine. That is absolutely crazy. As I said, what I love about him is the power, yards after contact. He'll run over you. Indiana didn't use him as a receiver much. He split up the backfield duties with Hemby. Wasn't invited to the combine, but Greg Cosell watched his film and said, man, he was one of the 2 or 3 best running backs in the draft. Greg loved his burst. I love this kid, man. Niners, according to Tariq Ahmad, were on Kalon Black and had interest in Kalon Black dating back to the fall. So I think this guy's a really good football player. He blocks. He's great in short yardage. The one interesting thing is he's really not a copy of Christian McCaffrey. They have differing skill sets. They really do. But I love Kalon Black, and I think he's a great addition. I would give the Niners' highest designation for a player is their gold helmet designation. What I would call my highest designation for a player is a player that's a culture player. And what I mean by that is he makes other people better. And a culture player is not just one of the best players on your team. It's also a guy when he's in the room and when he's not in the room. George Kittle is a culture player. Brock Purdy is a culture player. Fred Warner is a culture player. If he's in the room or not. And I think Kalon Black is that kind of a player. He's a culture player. He's tough. He's a leader. He's just a really solid football player that's going to add a lot. So let's talk a little bit about him. He's a short back. He's a powerful guy. He was on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list. He started at JMU, James Madison, and then he followed Cignetti after 4 years at James Madison to Indiana, and he had 2 great years for Indiana. He's from Virginia Beach. He's 24. He's a little bit older. Went to Salem High School, 6-year senior, and he shared time with Roman Hemby in Mike Shanahan's Indiana. He was the Indiana offensive coordinator in their offense. It's a balanced offense. As I said, he started with James Madison with Cignetti, and then he continued with Cignetti when Cignetti went to Indiana. And he was a vital cog on Indiana's national championship team. There's just no question about it. Him and Hemby both went for 1,000 this year rushing. The only FBS duo to accomplish that feat. Black led Indiana in rushing yards in each of the final 4 games in the playoffs. Ohio State, Bama, Oregon, and then in the national championship against Miami. So What is Kalon Black? He's a short, powerful back who has unbelievable leg strength. He runs completely balanced. He's low to the ground, and he just hits the hole hard, and he can find those cracks in the defensive line and get through. He doesn't gear down upon contact. He just bursts straight into it. He's very physical. He's got a very physical running style. He'll finish each run. He hits the gas pedal and goes. He's light on his feet. I don't look at him as a real home run hitter. I don't think he's got that elite long speed, but he's a damn good player. Really, really good player. Strong in the weight room. Very strong in the weight room. Good combine numbers. 5'9.25", 211 pounds. He had 27 reps on the bench of 225. He's 211 pounds. He's benching more than his weight 27 times. Super quick, 153 in the 10-yard split. That's quicker than Brock Purdy. Unbelievable lower body explosion, 37.5-inch vertical, 10.5 in the broad jump. Those numbers really show that lower body explosiveness. He's jacked up. He's strong in the upper body. He's physical. There was a quote in the Brugler draft guide from the Maryland safety Jalen Husky, who said, "He runs extremely hard. I felt every single hit." So this guy runs low. He runs with balance. He plays the game on his feet. He's got unbelievable contact balance. He just bounces off hits. He can make sudden jump cuts. He's got good vision, and then he trusts that vision. He had at least one 10-plus yard run in 15 of 16 games. What I love about him, and the reason Bobby T is going to love him, this guy goes stripe on a stripe on blitzers and defenders trying to attack the quarterback. This guy squares you up and takes you on. So there ain't no fear in his pass blocking style. He's really strong. He was on the freaks list, 415-pound bench, 500-pound squat. I mean, those are pretty good numbers. Hard worker, respect to the locker room, culture. He's a culture player. Now, he's got short legs. He's not much of a receiver, at least according to what he did at Indiana. He only had 12 targets in 29 games. Now, he didn't have any drops. He caught all 12 balls, but still. He always has played in a backfield with a committee, 11.9 offensive touches per game this year. He did tear the ACL in the right knee, but it was back in 2021. And, of course, he had surgery. And he is a little bit of an older player. He's going to turn 25 during his rookie year. But, man, I love this player. I think this is one of those really, really good football players out there. Didn't play as much his first 3 years at James Madison, 25 carries, 27 carries, 69 carries in 2022. But then, started 12 of 13 games in 2023. That was his bust out year at James Madison. 142 carries, 637 yards, averaged 4.49 a carry. But then 2024, he averaged 5.4 a carry, and then 2025, he averaged 5.5 a carry. So great prospect, graduated, mature player, one of four kids in his family, grew up in Virginia Beach. His dad played linebacker at Norfolk State. He's got two brothers and one sister. He grew up playing youth football. And then he played 14U football for Ocean Lakes Dolphins in Virginia Beach. He went to Salem High School. He was a 4-year letterman on the football team, helped them make the playoffs as a freshman. Just a great player, right? Topped 1,000 yards in his final season there. His best season was his senior year. They went 13-0 to start the year. They won the regional championship, and they lost in the third round of the Class 5 playoffs. So, really, really good football player. 3-star recruit. Wasn't a 4 or 5-star. He was a 3-star. 150th ranked running back in the state of Virginia. Got his first offer from East Carolina, and then got offers from Army, Howard, Wake, Virginia Tech. Communicated with all those programs, but JMU stayed in contact with him, and so there you go. He stayed there. He decided to go. He committed to JMU, and he was their third-ranked recruit in Cignetti's 2020 class, and they played 4 years for Cignetti. When Cignetti left for Indiana, Black graduated with a degree in liberal studies and from Indiana. He decided to go for that final year, and he helped the Hoosiers make a playoff run. And he is a tough culture player, and he's going to be a great tone setter. One scout said of him, he's a tough, hard-nosed son of a gun, a lot like Isaiah Pacheco of the Chiefs, now in Detroit. Comes in, does the dirty work. That's who he is. He'll get you 3 or 4 yards. He won't break the long run, but he'll be there every time. He can pass pro and all that. He caught the ball a lot better at the Senior Bowl, late to mid-round pick, though he did go in the third. Get on a roster, and the coach is going to love him. Indiana won with those types of kids this year, guys that do the right thing. So, Indiana was a special program this year, and Kalon Black was a big part of that. So I'm a huge fan. I think he is one of the best backs in the country. When you watched him this year, at the end of watching him, you're like, wow, this guy's really good. And it's like, what's the best thing about him? Probably his heart. The guy has tremendous heart. And I think it really stands out. Here is Dane Brugler on a podcast discussing the Niners situation, and listen to the NFL back that Brugler compares Kalon Black to.
This is the first non-combine guy drafted. And sometimes we see that in the top 100, but not every year. It does happen this year. You watch him and you just appreciate the way he plays. The legs just churn over and over and over. He runs through guys, good speed. Reminds me of a Bucky Irving type of player. That's what I see with Kalon Black. And so big fan of the player. He's a little bit older. He's another one of those JMU guys that followed Cignetti to Indiana, and he was a big part of the identity of that offense this year.
All right, you ready? Joe Williams.
Okay. Oh man,
Joe Williams.
I don't think Joe Williams ever played a snap.
Nope. Joe Williams, Trey Sermon,
Ohio State, yeah.
Tyrion Davis Price, Isaac Guerrero, and then we had Jordan James last year. Those are all like the 3rd through 5th round running backs that the Niners have drafted over since 2017, since Kyle Shanahan has been there.
I mean, Isaac Guerendo's still on the team, but he didn't
not for long.
Yeah, I mean, clearly.
They recycle those running backs over and over, and just hope one of them hits.
And then Jalen Hurd is also one where not a running back, but also like
he was
what was Jalen Hurd?
Receiver, running back, hybrid guy.
Well, it's interesting because Kalon Black, he was not a pass catcher at Indiana. Like that was kind of one of the holes, or a projection at least, where you have to make. But you love the way he runs. This is the first.
So there you go. And all those other backs, I mean, it's, there's no question. I mean, there's nobody's debating that. Those guys are failures. Those guys, failed. Doesn't mean this guy's going to fail. But Kalon Black is the latest in the 3rd round running backs. All right, let's jump into our Prize Picks lineup for today. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app, and the reason I like it, it's simple. You're just picking more or less on player stats or even game outcomes, building your lineup, and you're in. No complicated stuff, just what you think is going to happen in the game. Use code HMA, play $5, get $50 in lineups instantly. Link is in the description. All right, let's give out our lineup. We're going Joe Burrow under 3,874.5 passing yards. Derrick Henry under 1,274.5 rushing yards. We think injuries are coming. Matthew Stafford less than 30.5 passing touchdowns. I think they're going to run the ball more. And Sam Darnold less than 3,674.5 passing yards. Thanks to Prize Picks for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Let's hear from Adam Rittenberg. Adam Rittenberg's a great follow on X at ESPN Rittenberg. He's a senior writer for college football on ESPN, and also is a host on Sirius XM, and he covers Indiana football. And I asked him to give us his thoughts, and we visited with him earlier on Kalon Black. Let's talk a little bit about these. You know a lot about the Indiana Hoosiers, and we wanted to have you on to talk a lot about Kalon Black and Mikhail Kamara, because those two guys are now 49ers. And why don't we start with Black? A lot of 49er fans were very upset and unhappy when the 49ers reached at 90. And I will say it's a reach because I think most people had him in the 4th or 5th round. Maybe some people had him later. And yet he went in the 3rd round, 90th overall. And I'm trying to convince Niner fans that this is a special player that I don't think this pick's going to look bad over time. Tell us what you think of Kalon Black as a player.
Yeah, I really like Kaelon. He was part of that James Madison crew, along with Mikhail Kamara, who joined Curt Cignetti and the coordinators and many others, making the move to Indiana, and really made an impact in an offense that improved substantially with the run game last year. Indiana went from a playoff team to a national championship team, and I would say one of the biggest factors, maybe outside of Fernando Mendoza, was the improved run game. They committed to their offensive line. They committed to using Roman Hemby and Kalon Black in kind of a tandem system after they had some injuries. Kobe Martin, who projects as a starter this year, also in that mix. But I really thought Kalon brought a lot to the table, especially in the playoff. There were times where Roman Hemby was maybe struggling here or there, where you're like, why aren't they giving it to Kalon Black more and more? But both of those guys, their numbers were almost identical, even though Hemby had more carries than Black did. Black was more effective getting into the end zone. And again, Indiana never wavered from that commitment to the run. I remember talking with offensive coordinator Mike Shanahan about that quite a lot through the playoff, as even when they weren't as effective as they wanted to be, they didn't abandon the run. And that was something he said he might have done earlier in his career when he was less mature. But for Curt Cignetti to Mike Shanahan on down, they continue to run the ball. They continue to feature multiple backs, and obviously Kaelon was part of that.
Yeah, I'm sure Mike or Kyle Shanahan sees a lot of the same traits that I see in this player. I think Kalon Black he's got the heart of a champion. He's a strong north-south runner, and he can block. He's scheme versatile. But to me, the overwhelming trait is the power and the yards after contact. This guy really will push the pile, carry the pile with him. We saw it a little bit in the Senior Bowl with a couple of those carries. What stands out to you when you watch Kalon's game?
Yeah, I think it's that power. I think that was one thing that differentiated him from Roman Hemby, who was a little bit more of a shake and bake type running back. Again, I think in the Big Ten, especially with how physical you have to be at the line of scrimmage, when you need tough yards, when you need the yards to move the chains or to get into the end zone, I think that's when Kaelon was at his best. And again, credit Indiana for not overloading either of them. Roman Hemby gets to 230, but Kalon Black was a pretty fresh player throughout his career there at James Madison and then Indiana. And I think that's an important trait when you're evaluating a back for the NFL, is how many hits does he have? How durable is he? Is he a guy that's going in and out of the lineup? And that really wasn't the case for Kaelon. And so, yeah, I think that power, obviously the size component, and someone that can come in, even if he's not your featured back, but can come off the bench and provide a little something just from inside the tackles running. He's certainly capable of that.
A lot of people saying he can't catch, but I don't know if that's the case, as much as Indiana just didn't use him as a receiver. He looked pretty natural catching it in the Senior Bowl practices. Of course, that's a small sample size. What do you think? Do you think Kalon Black is not a receiver, or do you think he just wasn't utilized as a receiver?
Yeah, I think it was more the latter. When you had three, really four really good receivers, plus Riley Nowakowski at tight end, who ends up going in the draft as well, there wasn't a huge need to use your backs out of the backfield. And I think Roman Hemby's skill set maybe lended itself to that a little bit more. He only had 17 receptions for IU last year. And so I think what was great about that team on the whole area is that everybody knew their role. And for Kaelon, it wasn't to be a guy that was going to accumulate, a ton of touches outside of, those power runs that they really needed him to execute. And it doesn't mean he can't do it, but that was not something they felt they needed to do with him last year.
You were talking to Adam Rittenberg from ESPN, who's very familiar with the Indiana football program. Of course, the 49ers added Kalon Black and Mikhail Kamara out of that program this weekend. One of the things that, kind of first got me interested in Kaelon was he appeared on the Bruce Feldman Freaks list, right? Because of his, that is a list that is usually dedicated to somebody that shows incredible athleticism or weight room strength or dedication. And this is one of the stronger weight room players, if I remember correct, with a bench nearly 5 bills and a squat nearly 700. I mean, this is a strong weight room presence. What can you tell us about Black and his dedication to the craft off the field?
Well, again, that was a big part of Indiana's success. Derek Owings, who did leave the program for Tennessee after the championship run, was a strength coach and did a great job. How do you get so many James Madison players to become all Big Ten level players in the Big Ten? A lot of that work is obviously done, in the winter and in the off season, and Kaelon certainly thrived in that area. Just from Bruce's piece, he does a great job with that piece every year. It's over 500-pound squat, bench press of 415. It's pretty good for a 5'10", 210, 215-pound running back, even though he's built, to kind of push that much weight. Those are numbers that jump out to you. And, again, points to a guy that's very serious about, his training, his preparation. Someone who won't be, I think, shocked by what it takes to succeed in the NFL. And, didn't talk to Kaelon a ton a little bit during the playoff, but was impressed with him, just his demeanor. And I think he's someone that will translate well to a pro locker room, again, given where he's come from. So many of those James Madison players, had the mindset to go to the Big Ten and not just be happy to be there, but to be impact players and to lift Indiana to heights that no one thought was possible in the college game. Even though you would look at Indiana's roster now and maybe say, oh, it's more talented overall, they're going to miss those James Madison guys because of what they brought to the table. That's a storyline to watch this year with IU.
Was Black considered a leader inside that program?
I didn't hear his name as much as some of the others. Maybe they came over from James Madison. On the defensive side, Aiden Fisher was really the leader of that group. But and the fact that he was sharing carries and was maybe part of it. But I think he was certainly a positive person in that locker room. Not anyone that I heard anything negative about. And again, understood what he was there for and was consistent and showed up to work and wasn't hurt, wasn't going in and out of the lineup. They had some injuries at running back early last season. Lost Lee Beebe Jr., who was a player who they were kind of counting on it at a really nice spark in the non-conference play. And so it came down to really the three backs that they had, which were Hemby and Black and Kobe Martin. All three of them were on the field consistently. They were making plays, and obviously all three of them were key in the playoff when they went against some teams they couldn't match them from a running standpoint. I mean, Alabama couldn't run the ball at all. Indiana ran all over them. Oregon was using like walk-on linebackers to run the ball in the semifinal. Indiana didn't have that problem, and obviously Kaelon was part of that.
Yeah, no question. Is there a player comp before we go talk about Kamara? Is there a player comp, a running back comp that you think, this guy, he kind of reminds me a little bit of this guy?
I don't think I've studied his game enough to make that comparison, so I wouldn't want to just throw out a name.
Sure.
But again, he was a guy I remember sitting at some games, and this isn't a knock on Roman Hemby because he's a heck of a player too. Obviously, was valued by NFL evaluators as well. But there were times where I'm like, they need to get Kaelon the ball. We need this should be a Kaelon drive. Just because of he's always going forward, he's always fighting for yards, and he gives you that power element that you're going to need. And not every run is going to be an 80-yarder or even a 15-yarder. Sometimes you need the 2s and the 6 and the 5, and like that keeps the chains moving and keeps your offense out of adverse situations. I think he's the type of back that really does that and did that for IU, and we'll see how he does if he can do that with the 49ers.
Yeah, that's a good point. Kind of that continuity piece. There you go. A little bit of Adam Rittenberg on Kalon Black right there. And, interesting running back. I think he's going to be very, very good. I really do. I think he's the kind of back that Niner fans are going to love. I think he's a culture player. I think he's a tough back. I think he's going to run well between the tackles. I don't think he's Christian McCaffrey. I think he's a great complement to Christian McCaffrey. And I think they're going to be a great 1-2 punch, but they're different skill sets. They're not the same skill set. They're different. So we'll see if that bothers Kyle Shanahan over time. All right. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to our sponsors for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.